What if everything you learned about history is wrong? Forget the textbooks, because we are about to explore a hidden past, one where civilizations thrived before the Great Flood, and lost worlds are waiting to be rediscovered. After this video, you won't look at history the same way again. Agartha. Far below your feet, past the crust, the magma, and the don't even think about digging here signs, there might be something unexpected. Not dinosaurs, not mole people, although mole people would be kind of awesome. There might be a lost civilization that some believe has been hiding in Earth's core for centuries, complete with its own sun, advanced technology, and probably better Wi-Fi than us. This is Agartha, the mythological metropolis that may or may not be hiding in the world's deepest basement. Let's be honest, humans have a track record of sticking our noses where they don't really belong. We've walked on the moon, sent robots to Mars, built nuclear-powered toasters, and now we are flirting with the idea of a fully functioning society inside the Earth. It's the kind of sci-fi plot twist that Jules Verne scribbled about in his notebook. Agartha, according to the believers, is more than just a cool-sounding name that could double as a luxury skincare brand. It's supposedly a utopian kingdom located in the center of the Earth. Under its own burning sun, don't try to explain this one, is allegedly a population of super intelligent beings. Its capital is known as Shambhala, a rather mystical locale borrowed from Tibetan Buddhist traditions, wedged somewhere between spiritual enlightenment and the Earth's trapdoor. In Hindu mythology, Agartha also overlaps with Patala, the underworld realm of the Nagas, who were half human, half serpent gods. Some legends even link Agartha to the Aryavartas, a race of ancient superior beings who fled underground to escape whatever cataclysm the surface world was botching at the time. Probably an epic flood. So we've got an underground world, serpent-man hybrid gods, superior beings, and a sun, or at least a sun-like light source miles below the Earth's crust. Totally legit, right? Surely scientists are on board with this idea. Surprisingly, some of them are, or at least they used to be. Like Edmund Halley, the comet guy. Back in the 17th century, Halley proposed that Earth wasn't a solid ball of hot lava and sadness like other scientists said, but a series of concentric spheres, like a cosmic gobstopper. Halley claimed each layer had its own atmosphere and its own auroras. The auroras, he posited, were the result of gas leaks from the inner Earths, and they were bright enough to illuminate each sphere. Then, in the 1800s, John Cleave Sims Jr., the most committed hollow earther of all time, stood on a soapbox and declared, "The Earth is hollow, and I can prove it." John even lobbied Congress for funding to send an expedition to the North Pole to find the entry hatch down to Agartha. He didn't get the cash, but he did get a solid career delivering speeches and writing articles until he died still shouting, "It's hollow, I swear." Now comes the most controversial part of all. Admiral Richard E. Byrd was a decorated U.S. Navy officer, Arctic explorer, and, according to conspiracy lore, an accidental tourist of Agartha. During a flight over the North Pole, Byrd allegedly recorded in his diary that a flying saucer intercepted his aircraft and then landed him gently with tractor beams or some sci-fi equivalent and introduced him to the long-lost Agarthans. These underground dwellers, he claimed, were super advanced, peaceful, and possibly working on solving global warming before us surface dwellers even knew that it was a thing. There's just one problem. That diary entry has never been found and may not have ever existed. Byrd was real, and he did go to the North Pole, but his diary with all this craziness written in it is nowhere to be seen. In fact, there is zero physical evidence for Agartha. No signs of a sun underground or magical auroras, no elevators through the crust, no glowing crystal metros speeding between underground kingdoms. But the myth won't stop. I think that's because the story of Agartha taps into something deep, perhaps our endless fascination with hidden worlds and secret wisdom. Could Agartha exist? Could we be the surface-level experiment while an enlightened civilization watches from below like disappointed parents? You tell me. when humans almost went extinct. As hard as it is to imagine today in this crowded world, there was a time when the entire human race wouldn't fill the stands of your local baseball field. There weren't enough people to occupy a ghost town. About 70,000 years ago, humans came this close, I say, to total extinction. Things got so bad there were only about 1,000 people left alive. The story of our species almost ended before it began. The culprit? A volcano. But not just any volcano. This was the Oppenheimer of volcanic eruptions. When Toba blew its top, it practically nuked the planet. Let's rewind to 70,000 BC. Toba, sitting innocently on the Indonesian island of Sumatra, decided it was time to explode. In a blast that made Mount Vesuvius look like a toddler tantrum, Toba ejected 650 cubic miles of rock, ash, and fury into the sky. How much is 650 cubic miles, you ask? That is like launching a mountain range into the stratosphere. The ash cloud alone blanketed South Asia, the Indian Ocean, the Arabian Sea, and the South China Sea in a 6-centimeter thick layer of dust. The Volcanic Explosivity Index rated Toba's eruption an 8. That is mega colossal, and probably the same label used for Godzilla attacks. By comparison, the 1815 Mount Tambora eruption, which caused the infamous Year Without a Summer, was a mere mosquito bite next to Toba's planet punch. According to science writer Sam Keane, that much debris in the atmosphere likely dimmed the sun for 6 years. Think of it as nature slamming the dimmer switch and leaving it there. Rains failed, streams dried up, crops wouldn't grow, and many animals starved. We were on the chopping block too. The best estimates say that at the lowest point, only 1,000 breeding humans were left on Earth. Some researchers argue that we might have bottomed out at just 40 breeding pairs. 40! That's fewer people than you'll see in a line at Starbucks on a Tuesday morning. Honestly, figures like this blow me away. One more week of bad weather and those 40 breeding humans could have starved. Humanity came within one bad hunting season of disappearing entirely. The bounce back took about 200,000 years. Humanity reached its first billion people in 1804. Then things sped up fast. We hit 3 billion in 1960, 7 billion by 2011, and we are now staring down the barrel of 9 billion. From 40 to 1 billion in 200,000 years. And from 1 billion to 9 billion in only about 200. Not even hormonal rats can breed that fast. Harvard biologist E.O. Wilson once calculated that if you piled all 7 billion of us together, we would weigh 750 billion pounds. That's more than 100 times the biomass of any large animal species ever. But will we last? Nature doesn't care about our stock markets or our smartwatches. Cataclysms can come knocking at any moment, and it only takes one nasty eruption, deadly virus, or ecological misstep to knock us down again. What if there's another Toba eruption? Will humanity bounce back a second time? And now for a quick break, because it's shout-out time. I want to give a big thank you to Killa Clown and Ale Franger for supporting this channel. Thanks so much for watching and spending time with me today. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already to join the Origins Explained family, because why not? The town that ghosted reality. Once upon a time in the foggy, frost-bitten heart of Wisconsin, a town vanished off the face of the earth. One moment, houses, families, bratwurst on the grill. The next, poof, gone, like your car keys when you're already late. If you've ever questioned reality or wondered if you're secretly in the Matrix, you'll want to hear this. It's the tale of Doveland, Wisconsin, the town that might have existed, might have disappeared, or might just be one big cosmic joke. According to local legend, Doveland was a small community that disappeared without a trace in the 1990s. Some Wisconsinites swear they remember it. They even claim to own Doveland-branded mugs and t-shirts, which shouldn't be possible if the city never existed. Apparently, Doveland was Anytown, USA, a quiet place with apple pies cooling in windows and kids pedaling their bikes in the streets. People waving at each other, doors left unlocked, keys left dangling in ignitions. And then it was all gone in the blink of an eye. But wait a second, don't go searching for Doveland on Google Maps. There isn't one map in the entire US of A that has Doveland on it. The quaint little town isn't in a single historical record. Outside of internet conspiracies and the eyewitnesses who claim they remember Doveland, there isn't a trace of it, which is what makes this mystery so captivating. Some say the town was swallowed by a sinkhole. Dramatic, yes, but not geologically impossible either. Though a sinkhole wouldn't explain why the town was scrubbed from the records. Another theory is that Doveland was destroyed when a dam was built, but the people weren't warned to evacuate and were killed. The US government then erased the town from existence to cover up their tracks. There are other theories like that too. Theories of a military operation erasing Doveland, an angry ghost wiping the place out in a supernatural fit of rage. Some even think Doveland still exists. On foggy nights, people claim to see the faintest shimmer of buildings and people sitting down for dinner. Could Doveland have slipped somehow into an alternate dimension or a mirror universe? Honestly, I don't know, and I don't think anyone knows. The next time you're road tripping through Wisconsin, though, keep your eyes peeled. If you spot a Doveland mug at a thrift store, maybe don't drink out of it. Just saying. Men are from Mars, and so are women. Long before Mars became a sunburnt wasteland, it was a paradise. Cloudy skies, rain falling on an abundance of plants, snow dusting the highlands, and rivers carving through canyons. Sounds less like sci-fi and more like Sedona after a thunderstorm, doesn't it? Well, I'm happy to say it's not fantasy. New research suggests this really happened. Mars once boasted lakes, rivers, and precipitation. There was rain and snow, and probably jungles and plant life galore. And humans may have been there to witness it. Scientists led by Amanda Steckel at Caltech and Brian Hynek at the University of Colorado have been simulating what Mars looked like about 4 billion years ago. That was during what's known as the Noachian epoch, literally named after Noah from the Bible. Their models, originally built to map Earth's own climate and terrain, have been repurposed to show us Mars not as it is, but as it was. For example, the Jezero crater, where NASA's Perseverance rover is currently doing sciencey things, once had a raging river that poured into it with enough force to carry boulders. You don't get that kind of hydraulic muscle from a light drizzle or some melting snowpack. That takes monstrous floods. Steckel's team compared Mars with satellite images of Utah, and the resemblance is pretty eerie. Valleys, basins, and erosional features on Mars mirror the American Southwest. Looking at the pics side by side, you can barely tell which is Mars and which is Utah. Putting all this information together, it's easy to reach the following conclusion. If Mars was once warm and wet, that means conditions for life were ideal. Life doesn't just need liquid water, it needs time. And Mars may have had millions of years of it. Enough for microbes to evolve, enough for ecosystems to flourish, maybe even enough for something far more advanced. If Mars was green and habitable for tens of millions, maybe even a billion years, humans could have evolved, or at least a human-adjacent intelligent species. They may have been advanced enough to travel across the void to Earth. They might be us. It's too early to confirm a civilization on Mars, but for the first time, it seems plausible. Scientists are still arguing over the whole water thing, despite the clear evidence of floodplains and storm damage to the surface. In fact, the surface of the planet looks like it was hit by a massive flood, maybe even a biblical-level flood. Could Mars have been flooded just like Earth? Is someone planting societies on random planets and then washing them away when they get bored, like erasing an Etch-a-Sketch? Scientists capture the light of life. Let's disrupt reality a little bit. Scientists have just found evidence of human light, of a soul, of some sort of something inside the human body that is snuffed out at the moment of death. Atheists everywhere are about to be very upset. Forget auras, chakras, and the neon glow of supermarket wheatgrass shots. Turns out, every living thing really does shine, just not in a way you've ever seen, and not in the way Danny Torrance shines. Deep inside the realm of the invisible, our bodies emit a faint light, so subtle it takes a pitch-black lab and a hypersensitive camera to catch it. This isn't mysticism, this is science. According to researchers at the University of Calgary, that ghostly shimmer vanishes the moment life ends, making a lot of people whisper, "It's the soul." Led by physicist Vahid Salari, the team set out to study something called ultra-weak photon emission. It's a real, measurable phenomenon where living organisms emit an ultra-low-level glow. It's so faint that it's 1 billion times dimmer than a candle. Your eyes could never perceive it, ever. Still, it's there, in you, in your pets, in the basil plant you forgot to water last week. It turns out even trees have souls. Of course, scientists didn't start out by trying to prove the soul exists. They thought maybe ultra-weak photon emissions could be bioluminescence, like what you see in jellyfish. But it's not, and it's also not black body radiation, the heat your body naturally radiates. Instead, the team found it's caused by reactive oxygen species. These are tiny, high-energy molecules your cells produce while they go about their business, keeping you alive. As these reactive oxygen species react with biomolecules, they sometimes create brief, spontaneous flashes of light. And when your body is stressed, injured, or dying, these emissions can spike, making ultra-weak photon emissions a flickering readout of your vitality. And when you die, the light goes out. Is it your soul? Scientists say it's just normal biomolecules doing their thing, and others are convinced this is real evidence of the human spirit. The fact that animals and plants have spirits too is just a bonus. So do you think people have souls? Is the light within you spirit, or is it science? The wall that went nowhere. High in the Blue Ridge Mountains of northern Georgia lies a stone serpent that's been giving archaeologists headaches for years. It snakes across Fort Mountain, 855 feet long, zigzagging like a drunken mason was trying to draw a straight line. The stone snake is a stubby, winding, serpentine wall that could be very, very ancient, as in before Europeans ancient, possibly even before Native Americans. The Fort Mountain Wall is made of stacked stones and stretches across 2 cliff edges like someone tried to fence in a ghost. Its height ranges from 2 to 6 feet currently, but archaeologists believe it used to stand taller. How tall? Well, no one knows. Even more curious than the wall itself is the 30-odd mysterious pits built into it. Scientists are stuck on this one. Were they ceremonial features, ancient Nerf gun emplacements, love nests for newlywed Cherokee couples? Nobody knows. There are no records, no construction dates, no instruction manual, just a prehistoric riddle dressed as a hiking destination. You know what happens when there's no information, right? The conspiracy theories pile up faster than laundry before laundry day. The most popular theory is that Native Americans built the wall around the year 500. According to archaeologists, indigenous people may have built it for religious or ceremonial reasons. But this theory is kind of boring. If this huge, snaking wall was built by indigenous people, where are all their other walls? North America isn't exactly crawling with cyclopean walls or megalithic constructs. Some people claim the wall was built by a band of Welsh explorers who supposedly crossed the ocean way before Columbus ever pointed west. Because when you're lost in the wilderness and surrounded by trees, clearly the best move is to build a giant rock wall. Others suggest Spanish explorers, maybe even Hernando de Soto's crew, constructed it as a defensive position while wandering through the southeast. Those theories kind of suck. If you're dressed in 16th century armor in Georgia's summer heat, are you really hauling rocks up a mountain to build some pitiful wall that your enemies could just, walk around? The truth is, nobody actually knows what the wall was for. Not the experts, not the locals, not even that one guy on Reddit who claims he's done the research. It's a beautiful, stone-laced enigma perched between 2 cliffs, doing its best impression of a mystery novel with the last chapter torn out. If you have a theory, drop it in the comments. The 1,000-year mistake. What if everything you learned in history class was a lie? Not just embellished, biased, or exaggerated, but completely fabricated, top to bottom, forged by scheming monks, math-hating Renaissance scribes, and the Vatican's shadowy secret timeline division. What if ancient Rome wasn't in Italy? The Bible was written in the Middle Ages, and Genghis Khan was a Russian Tsar named Danilovichi. All things are possible with the gloriously bonkers world of Anatoly Fomenko's new chronology. It's a theory so wild, it makes flat Earth conspiracies look plausible. I'll start by introducing you to the man who changed everything. Anatoly Fomenko isn't your average tinfoil hat theorist. Born in 1945 to a Soviet engineer and a philologist, he didn't stumble into pseudo-history from a cave of YouTube comments. He was a mathematical prodigy who graduated from Moscow State University and earned his PhD in 1972. He eventually became head of the Department of Higher Geometry and Topology. That's not just smart, that's genius-level brilliant. Which makes it all the more confusing that in the 1970s, Fomenko turned his attention to history and made some unusual proclamations. He decided the timeline of human history wasn't just a little bit off. It was catastrophically wrong by 1,000 years or more. In his magnum opus, a 7-volume saga titled History, Fiction, or Science, Fomenko lays out a world history that you won't find in any classroom. He argues in the book that most pre-14th century historical records are worthless garbage. He says they are riddled with forged dates, fantasy events, and lazy clerical copy-paste jobs. Could history really be fabricated? According to Fomenko, medieval scholars working for the Vatican deliberately manufactured an entire fake past to support their authority over the peasants of Europe. What sort of stuff did they fake? The usual, like the Bible, which Fomenko claimed is actually a Frankenstein manuscript sewn together between the 11th and 14th centuries. And Jesus Christ was fake too. Fomenko said the real Jesus wasn't born in Bethlehem, but in Byzantium. Fomenko claimed that Jesus was based on Emperor Andronikos I Komnenos, who was betrayed, tortured, and killed. The histories of Egypt, Rome, Constantinople, all fabricated. Fomenko's theory states that the world was really controlled by a mega empire in Russia. Guess who else wasn't real? Genghis Khan. Fomenko's book says he was really a Russian leader named Danilovichi. There was no Mongol invasion. It was a Russian horde that invaded the rest of Europe. That horde apparently founded Rome, built the pyramids, and colonized the Americas. That mighty Russian civilization was erased from historical memory after its collapse in 1600 AD. Its legacy was dismantled, renamed, and scattered into fake chronologies by soldiers of the Vatican. You're probably wondering how Fomenko reached these incredible conclusions. Forget whether it's true or not. How did a math whiz come up with this theory? Fomenko created a method known as Fomenko parallelism. He used it to compare historical chronologies from different cultures and discover patterns that are suspiciously similar. For example, the lineage of the kings of Judah from the year 0 to 400 AD are very similar to the lineage of German emperors who ruled from 950 to 1350 AD. Both reigns have similar durations, orders, and names. According to Fomenko, this isn't a coincidence. It's proof that the same history was copied, pasted, and renamed by lazy medieval scribes. You'd think the academic world would be up in arms over this, but for the most part, historians, archaeologists, and scientists just shrug and walk away. There's no point debating someone who thinks ancient Rome was made up. It's like trying to argue physics with someone who believes gravity is a government hoax. So what do you think? Is there something to Fomenko's theory? Is history forged? Let me know in the comments, and hit that subscribe button while you're at it. Giraffes, ghosts, and rock art. Out where the Sahara swallows the horizon and the sun bakes the earth into a kiln, the Air Mountains rise triumphantly. Huge granite peaks thrust out of golden sand like the bones of some ancient beast, casting shadows on a landscape that hasn't changed in thousands of years. Can you feel it? You've been teleported to northern Niger, to the Tenere Desert. The name literally means where there is nothing. I guess whoever named the place had a sense of humor. In this remote corner of the world, you'll find fabulous displays of rock art. The showstopper is a giant giraffe, actually 2 giraffes. Scratched into a rocky hill are 2 giraffes, life-size and majestic, staring across the desert like they're waiting for the next ice age. These are 6,000-year-old petroglyphs, and they are only the beginning. The Air Mountains region has been lived in, drawn on, and dreamed through for tens of thousands of years. Archaeologists have found tools, carvings, and artifacts dating as far back as 100,000 years ago, and as recent as 2,000 years ago. That's enough history to make your high school textbook burst into flames. Whoever scratched the life-size giraffes into the dusty hillside also etched strange humanoid figures that are guaranteed to make you question reality. They have round heads, bizarre headdresses, and are towering over other characters like ancient giants at Rock Art Fashion Week. Who were they? Priests? Spirits? Aliens trying to blend in? Nobody knows, but they were clearly important to the ancient people who drew them. And the drawings are everywhere. Rock walls and boulders across the Air Mountains are tattooed with images of cattle herders, hunting scenes, dance rituals, and abstract figures that would make Picasso squint. Weird, bulb-headed, alien-like beings are scattered throughout the mountains. Some suspect the ancient desert dwellers encountered very real aliens in the ancient past and recorded the meeting in stone artwork, while others think the bizarre characters are supernatural deities. Take a look at some of the artwork found in the Air Mountains for yourself, and you can decide just what the alien-esque creatures are supposed to be, and then let me know. The mysterious victim of a 6,000-year-old cataclysm. In the sweltering heat of 1929, deep in the mangrove flats near the remote coastal town of Aitape in Papua New Guinea, an Australian geologist named Paul Hosfeld trudged through muck and shadowed swamps. He was in search of mineral deposits. What he found instead was a partial human skull from a long-forgotten world. At first glance, the skull was believed to be Homo erectus, a relic of primitive humanity. But science has since changed its mind. Dated to around 6,000 years ago, the Aitape skull is now believed to be something far more haunting. It may belong to the earliest known tsunami victim on Earth, someone killed by a devastating flood. You can't help but wonder, could this be a remnant of the biblical flood? Let's get back to modern times. Today, Mark Golitko is an anthropologist at the University of Notre Dame. Mark led a team from the Field Museum and a group of researchers from a variety of countries to the very spot where Paul Hosfeld discovered the ancient skull. It hadn't been a difficult find. Hosfeld hadn't done much except yank the skull out of the ground and move on. He didn't take soil samples or do any forensic sleuthing. He picked it up like you might pick a nickel up off the sidewalk. Golitko's team was eager to do a lot more research. They brought the big guns, things like geochemical tests, diatom analysis, and sediment profiling. What they found reads like a disaster report from the deep past. The team identified marine diatoms in the soil, tiny organisms that live only in seawater. They were found shattered, which suggests the region was hit by a violent, high-energy surge of ocean water. The grain size of the sediment, the chemical fingerprints, everything pointed to a powerful tsunami smashing into the area, one fierce enough to rip through the coastal jungle like a freight train made of salt and chaos. This wasn't a slow-rising tide. This was a sudden, obliterating force, and it hit our poor friend 6,000 years ago, separating his head from his body. Do you know what else happened 6,000 years ago? Cultures across the world recorded massive flood events, from Mesopotamia's Epic of Gilgamesh to the Book of Genesis. That can't be a coincidence. Even biblical scholars are starting to agree that the Great Flood of the Bible may not have been one big flood, but rather multiple regional floods that affected every part of the world. Tsunamis and rising seas drowned civilizations and left their ruins slumbering beneath flooded coastlines. The Aitape skull might just be real-world evidence of this global apocalypse. But where's the rest of the evidence? Where are the other skulls? This is one flood victim, but there are others, surely. Where are they hiding? Could they be buried so deep under so much water that archaeologists will never find them? When the ice melted, they walked north. It's time to get Scottish. Long before whiskey, kilts, or moody castles perched on cliffs, there were footsteps in Scotland. Bare, cold, determined footsteps crossing soggy plains, chasing herds, and walking toward the edge of the world. Wait, this wasn't Scotland. Not yet, anyway. This was Doggerland, the vast prehistoric land bridge stretching across what is now the North Sea. 11,500 years ago, it was the prehistoric version of England's M1 highway, minus the potholes, plus a lot more mammoths. It connected the British Isles to mainland Europe. Now archaeologists say some of those early explorers, the original nomads of Europe who lived in Doggerland, made it all the way to Scotland's Isle of Skye and settled. Even today, the island is one of the wildest, most remote corners of Scotland. According to a new announcement from the University of Glasgow, archaeologists uncovered stone tools that prove that humans were living on Skye shortly after the glaciers retreated. The ground was still cold from the ice. Woolly rhinos weren't even endangered yet. Karen Hardy, the archaeologist leading the team, put it perfectly by saying, "The journey made by these pioneering people who left their lowland territories in mainland Europe to travel northwards into the unknown is the ultimate adventure story." And she's not wrong. You have to imagine a group of hunter-gatherers, nomadic survivalists living in Doggerland. They enjoyed lots of meat, good plants, and fair weather. Then someone was like, hey, let's go north, 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 cross the sea and settle on a random island at the top of the world. Yeah, good idea. Scientists don't know what the motivation was. These prehistoric humans reached what is now Skye and faced down a land still reshaping itself from the Ice Age. Melting glaciers were carving out valleys and lochs, the sea was creeping in, and the wind howled like a banshee. It does sound like the ultimate adventure. Would you be brave enough to wander into the unknown? There aren't very many unknowns left on our planet. Even the Mariana Trench has been explored. And now the mystery deepens. At South Kuidrach, researchers unearthed a collection of tools that, while small, pack a serious historical punch. They were surprisingly sophisticated stone implements. And nearby, archaeologists also found stone circles. Who in the name of what were these people? They didn't just eat, sleep, repeat. They weren't just on Skye for the killer views. They had rituals, community, and concepts of spirituality. You don't just build a stone circle without having some rituals to perform. And get this, the island of Skye represents the densest cluster of early settlements in all of Scotland. That's like finding out your sleepy hometown was once the Stone Age equivalent of Manhattan. Up until recently, researchers didn't think people got this far north so early. Skye was assumed to be too harsh and too remote for earlier settlers. But these discoveries flip the script on its head. Our ancient ancestors were bold, adaptable, and far more mobile than experts today give them credit for. In the end, this isn't just a tale of survival. It's a reminder that humans have always been explorers at heart. And for the ancient pioneers of Skye, it must have felt like the final frontier. If you could live anywhere on Earth as it was 11,500 years ago, where would you go? Let me know in the comments, and thanks for watching. Remember to subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you again very soon. Bye!